Not the scoreboard, not the stats, but the silence, the kind that follows when an entire locker room stops breathing at once. It happened in the middle of what should have been a routine drill. A throw, a hit, a word. Then chaos. Witnesses say it was supposed to be harmless. Dillon Gabriel, the backup, stepping in for a rep that wasn't his. But one mistake, one late hit, and suddenly every camera at Brown's camp turned toward Shedeur Sanders. He ripped off his helmet, face tight, eyes locked in. The field froze. Coaches shouted, whistles blared, and in the next few seconds, Cleveland's quiet preseason turned into a full-blown NFL storm. Social media didn't wait. Clips surfaced within minutes, angles from fans, from local media, even from a player's Instagram live that mysteriously disappeared hours later. The internet went nuclear. Sanders went too far. Gabriel disrespected him. Who leaked the video? Is this the end of the Browns' locker room? Every headline screamed a different story. And in the middle of it all stood Shedeur, the son of a legend, the face of a new era, and now the most polarizing man in the league before ever starting a full NFL game. Some say he demanded discipline. Others claim he demanded something much bigger: accountability, respect, control. And depending on who you ask, that confrontation was either the moment Shedeur Sanders became the leader of the Browns, or the exact moment he lost the team forever. Behind closed doors, things got worse. Players took sides. Coaches went silent. Front office whispers started to leak, not about depth charts or preseason plans, but about damage control. The Browns had a choice: protect their young star and risk the locker room, or protect the culture and risk losing the biggest name to hit Cleveland since LeBron's first run. And that's when the real story began, the one that never made it to the press conference stage. Because this wasn't just a rookie getting emotional. This was a battle for power, the new NFL colliding with the old one. The social media era versus the shield. Swagger versus structure. Shedeur versus the system. And as that viral clip kept spreading, the league started watching too. Executives, analysts, even players from other teams weighing in, some calling it passion, others calling it poison. But here, the truth. Whatever happened on that field didn't just change a practice. It exposed a fault line running straight through the Browns' organization, a line that could decide whether this team finally rises or implodes before the season even begins. So what really happened that day? Who was telling the truth? And how did a single practice turn into a power struggle that might rewrite one rookie's entire career? Let's break it down. If you ask 10 people what happened that day in Cleveland, you'll get 10 different stories. But almost every version starts the same way, with tension that had been building for weeks. Reports claim that Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel had been quietly competing behind the scenes, even though everyone knew Shedeur was the Browns' golden pick, the one meant to carry the franchise into its new era. Still, insiders say Gabriel had been turning heads in camp, moving the ball efficiently, earning quiet nods from a few veteran players. That alone was enough to light a spark. Then came the play. Rumor has it the first-team offense was running a situational drill, quick reads, high tempo. Gabriel took a rep that wasn't his. Some say it was a coach's mistake. Others think Gabriel jumped in deliberately to prove a point. Either way, the snap was called, the ball was thrown, and then came the hit, a little too hard, a little too late, right on Shedeur. Witnesses describe what followed as instant chaos. Shedeur, still on the ground, ripped off his helmet and shot up. Words were exchanged, the kind that don't make it to the highlight reel. One player stepped in to calm things down, but Shedeur shoved his way past, pointing straight at Gabriel. "You don't touch me like that," one sideline mic allegedly picked up, though the clip was never officially verified. Within seconds, coaches blew the whistle. Players circled. Gabriel reportedly tried to explain, saying it was just football. But by then, Shedeur wasn't hearing it. Cameras from local beat reporters caught only the tail end, Sanders storming off, teammates holding him back, and Gabriel standing frozen near midfield. It should have ended there, But this is the NFL in 2025. Nothing stays behind closed doors anymore. Within hours, someone leaked footage from a sideline phone. The video didn't show everything, but it was enough. Shedeur yelling, Gabriel looking shaken, a coach stepping in. The internet filled in the blanks. Fans began choosing sides. Some said Shedeur was right. A quarterback should never be hit like that in practice. Others said it was arrogance, proof he hadn't earned the locker room's respect yet. Analysts jumped in, calling it a bad look for a rookie still trying to prove himself. By the next morning, Cleveland's media was on fire. Hashtags started trending. Sanders meltdown, #Team Gabriel. Even players from other teams chimed in online, with one anonymous veteran reportedly saying, "This is how locker rooms split." But here's the strange part. The Browns never released an official statement. No one confirmed the details. No one denied them either. That silence only made things worse. Because now, the story wasn't just about a late hit. It was about what it meant. Was this a rookie losing control, or a leader demanding respect before the season even began? And as more leaks started coming out, the truth got murkier, and a lot more dangerous. It didn't take long for the footage to explode. Within hours of the first clip leaking online, the story had already spread beyond Cleveland. ESPN was hinting at tension in Brown's camp. Local reporters were posting cryptic tweets like, "You wouldn't believe what just happened at practice today." But by then, fans had already seen enough, and they were running wild with it. The clip wasn't even clear. It was shaky, filmed from a distance, maybe 5 seconds long. You couldn't hear every word, but the moment Shedeur ripped off his helmet, that was all it took. Someone slowed it down, added captions, and within minutes, TikTok and X were filled with side-by-side edits, reaction videos, and what really happened breakdowns from fans pretending to be insiders. On one side, people were defending Shedeur, calling it fire, leadership, and Dayan's DNA. They said he was showing the same intensity his father built a career on, that prime bloodline attitude that doesn't tolerate disrespect. They argued that Gabriel's hit crossed a line, and Shedeur just stood up for himself. But on the other side, critics saw something completely different. They called him immature, entitled, Hollywood. Some even compared him to past players who let fame overshadow focus. One viral comment read, "He's acting like he's the franchise before he's even played a down." That line alone got thousands of likes, and the debate kept feeding itself. Sports talk shows jumped on it next. Clips of analysts debating whether Sanders lost the locker room or won respect through fire flooded YouTube. Memes followed. Even non-NFL accounts started using his photo in drama recap content, a sign the story had broken through the sports world into full-on internet culture. And here, where it got even worse for the Browns, Shedeur stayed silent. No tweets, no interviews, no apologies. That silence turned into fuel. Fans started reading into every move, his training posts, his captions, even his facial expressions in new photos. By the end of the week, that 5-second clip had more views than most preseason highlights combined. And in the world of sports media, that meant one thing: the story had officially left the Browns' control. Because now, it wasn't just about football. It was about reputation, leadership, and whether Shedeur Sanders was already becoming bigger than the team he played for. Behind the scenes, things were anything but calm. Once the cameras shut off and the social media chaos took over, the real storm was brewing inside the Browns' locker room. Players started choosing sides, quietly at first, then not so quietly. According to whispers from inside camp, some veterans felt Shedeur had crossed a line by reacting publicly. "You can't lose your cool in front of cameras," one insider claimed a team leader said. But others defended him, arguing he was standing up for himself and setting the tone. If someone hits your QB late, you speak up, period.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button.
That's where the divide began, not over who was right or wrong, but over what kind of team the Browns wanted to be. You had the old-school guys and players who believed discipline and quiet professionalism came before everything else. Then you had the new generation, the ones who admired Shedeur's fire, his presence, his swagger. They saw confidence where others saw arrogance. And when those two mentalities collided, Cleveland's locker room stopped feeling like one unit. Coaches could feel it. Practices grew tense. Teammates who'd been joking and celebrating a week earlier were suddenly keeping to their corners. Even small drills turned competitive, almost personal. The energy had shifted, not in a dramatic, movie scene way, but in subtle looks, hushed tones, and awkward silences when Shedeur walked in. Gabriel tried to downplay it, reportedly telling teammates he didn't want drama. But it didn't matter. The incident had already branded him as the other guy, and some players quietly started avoiding him altogether. One coach allegedly pulled Shedeur aside, telling him to let it go and focus on football. But that advice came too late. Rumors spread that Sanders had requested closed practices to avoid media coverage, and when reporters were finally allowed back in, the team looked fractured. The Browns tried to spin it as healthy competition, but inside that building, everyone knew something had changed. This wasn't just a rookie moment anymore. It was a fault line running right through the heart of the roster. And if it wasn't fixed soon, the team that once looked like a rising powerhouse might crumble from the inside out. Because once a locker room starts breaking apart, it rarely snaps back together. Before the chaos, before the viral clips and finger-pointing, everything in Cleveland revolved around one question: who's really the quarterback of this team? When Shedeur Sanders arrived, the energy shifted instantly. The cameras followed him everywhere, fans flooded the facility, and the Browns suddenly became must-watch TV in the middle of the offseason. He wasn't just a rookie, he was a brand. The son of Dillon, primetime Sanders, the college sensation who turned Colorado into a cultural movement. The moment he walked into the locker room, expectations skyrocketed. But inside that same building, not everyone was sold. Some players whispered that Shedeur hadn't earned it yet. Others said he carried himself like he already owned the place. And right behind him, waiting for a chance, was Dillon Gabriel, the veteran college gunslinger who came in as a backup but played with something to prove. Gabriel didn't have the spotlight, but he had the reps, the work ethic, and the quiet support of a few teammates who respected his grind. That's what made the quarterback battle so tricky. On paper, Shedeur was the future. But in practice, Gabriel was consistent, and every clean throw, every sharp drive only added more pressure. Coaches tried to keep it calm, calling it healthy competition. But everyone knew what was really happening. Shedeur was expected to be the guy, the face of the franchise, the savior for a team that's been chasing stability for decades. And when the spotlight's that bright, every small misstep becomes national news. Insiders say the pressure on Shedeur wasn't just internal, it came from everywhere. Corporate sponsors, national media, even his father's shadow, stretching all the way from Boulder to Cleveland. The narrative had already been written. Shedeur was supposed to prove he belonged, not just in the league, but in the family legacy. So when Gabriel started getting more practice time, when small frustrations started bubbling under the surface, it was only a matter of time before something snapped. Because in Cleveland, the QB race wasn't about two players fighting for one spot. It was about pride, power, and the crushing weight of expectation, the kind that doesn't just test your talent. It tests your identity. What happened in Cleveland wasn't just a practice fight, it was a power shift. When Shedeur Sanders confronted Dillon Gabriel, he didn't just challenge a teammate, he challenged the system. Traditionally, rookies keep quiet. They learn, they wait. The veterans talk, the new guys listen. But Shedeur shattered that blueprint completely. In one viral moment, he claimed the authority that usually takes years, sometimes entire careers, to earn. Leadership in the NFL has always been about hierarchy. Coaches set the tone, veterans enforce it, rookies follow. But what Shedeur did flipped that model on its head. He spoke, and everyone listened. Not because of his draft status or his last name, but because of what that confrontation symbolized. It wasn't ego, it was standards. He stood up for professionalism, accountability, and respect, values the locker room had quietly wanted someone to defend. That's why teammates backed him so quickly. The linemen, the veterans, even defensive players who had no stake in the QB battle, they saw something real. Sanders didn't just talk leadership, he showed it. When a rookie risks everything to protect a teammate, that's not showmanship, that's culture building. But with that kind of power comes new tension. When a rookie publicly calls for another player's removal, it forces the organization to take a side. Support him, and you hand a first-year player unprecedented influence. Go against him, and you risk fracturing your locker room and alienating your franchise cornerstone. That's the evolution of player empowerment. Today's stars aren't waiting for permission to lead. They're using their platforms, their voices, and their fan bases to shape the culture around them. In this era of social media, influence matters just as much as performance, and Shedeur knows it better than anyone. He's not just playing quarterback, he's redefining what it means to be one. What happened that afternoon in Cleveland wasn't about anger. It was about leadership meeting accountability, and a rookie realizing the power of his own voice. And once that voice echoed through the NFL, there was no turning back. But in every major NFL controversy, there's always another side of the story. As soon as the footage of Shedeur Sanders confronting Dillon Gabriel leaked online, the internet split down the middle. One half saw a rookie hero standing up for his team. The other half, they saw a setup. Almost immediately, whispers started spreading across social media and fan forums. Was the entire confrontation manufactured? Was this all part of a front office plan to justify cutting Gabriel, a player they'd already soured on without taking the PR hit? The evidence, at first glance, looked suspicious. The camera angle was perfect. The clip was clean. The timing, impeccable, dropping just as preseason roster cuts were approaching. Too convenient, some fans argued. No way this leaked accidentally. Insiders claimed certain executives were already frustrated with Gabriel's reckless play and locker room behavior. According to that theory, all they needed was one explosive moment, one public blow-up, to make the decision easy. Sanders simply gave them the moment they were waiting for. But then came the second theory, one even more explosive. Some insiders suggested that Shedeur himself may have orchestrated the confrontation. Not maliciously, but strategically. A way to assert dominance, protect his teammates, and yes, control the narrative. It wouldn't be the first time an athlete with media savvy used public perception to strengthen their position. And Shedeur, raised under Deion Sanders, one of the most media-aware athletes in sports history, knows exactly how powerful a headline can be. Was it spontaneous leadership or calculated control? Nobody can say for sure, but what's undeniable is that it worked. Gabriel's reputation tanked overnight, while Shedeur's leadership stock soared. Still, skeptics argue the story doesn't add up. Why was the footage leaked at all if team policy bans recording? Who benefits most from this chaos? The rookie, the front office, or both? Maybe it wasn't planned. Maybe it was raw emotion. Or maybe, just maybe, Cleveland's new franchise quarterback learned early what his father always preached. In the NFL, controlling the story is half the battle. And right now, Shedeur Sanders controls every headline. Now that the dust has settled, at least publicly, the question dominating every sports desk and locker room is simple. What happens next? The Browns are officially cornered. Every path forward carries consequences that ripple through the entire organization. Inside team headquarters, it's not about whether Dillon Gabriel stays or goes. It's about how Cleveland can survive the fallout without tearing itself apart. Option 1. The clean break. Cut Gabriel immediately, absorb the financial hit, and move forward with Shedeur Sanders as the unquestioned leader of this team. It's the boldest move, and the one fans overwhelmingly support. It restores locker room order, validates Sanders' leadership, and finally gives the organization the identity it's been chasing for decades. But it also screams one thing to the rest of the league. The Browns just admitted another draft mistake. Option 2. Temporary suspension. Gabriel could be benched pending internal review, paired with mandatory counseling or mediation. It's the corporate middle ground designed to cool the headlines while pretending to promote accountability. But in reality, it satisfies no one. The locker room has already chosen sides. Anything short of full removal looks like weakness from management, a direct slap in the face to the rookie who just risked his reputation defending the team's culture. Option 3. The quiet trade. Ship Gabriel off for minimal compensation, rebrand it as a fresh start, and let another franchise deal with the backlash. It's the most logical escape route, but only if another team is willing to take on the PR baggage that now follows Gabriel like a shadow. And then there's the worst-case scenario, doing nothing, keeping Gabriel on the roster under the guise of competition. It might save face financially, but it would fracture the locker room completely. The players have spoken. The fans have spoken. Even the national media has spoken. No matter which route the Browns choose, the message will define them for years. Either they back their new franchise leader and commit to cultural change, or they prove, once again, that Cleveland can't handle its own stars. Because this isn't just about one quarterback's mistake. It's about whether the Browns finally have the backbone to build around the man who just stood up for the entire organization. What happened in Cleveland isn't just a Browns story. It's a blueprint for the modern NFL, a glimpse into a league where leadership, accountability, and player empowerment collide like never before. Shedeur Sanders didn't just throw a football that day, he threw a challenge at the entire system. He dared to redefine how a rookie quarterback could influence a locker room, a franchise, and even the national conversation. This isn't just about talent. It's about character, courage, and timing. One rookie, backed by his principles, turned a single practice altercation into a seismic event that left teammates, coaches, front office personnel, and fans questioning everything they thought they knew about hierarchy in football. And the implications extend far beyond Cleveland. The story forces every NFL organization to reconsider its culture. How do you manage rookies with star power? How do you balance authority with accountability? How do you support a rising talent while holding others to a professional standard? These aren't easy questions, and the Browns' choices in the coming days will become a case study for decades. Fans have already made their stance clear. Shedeur represents hope, leadership, and the possibility of finally seeing a franchise quarterback who embodies both skill and integrity. Gabriel, meanwhile, faces a road that may be impossible to navigate, no matter his talent. The incident is a reminder that behavior off the stat sheet can define a player just as much as performance on it. And here, where you come in. Look at this not just as a story about football, but as a lens on leadership in any high-pressure environment. How would you respond if someone broke the rules or threatened the culture you care about? Would you stay silent or step forward, even knowing the risks? Cleveland's drama is over the headlines for now, but the lessons linger. Watch the trends. Follow the locker room whispers. Listen to the media narratives. And most importantly, ask yourself, what does leadership truly look like in your life, your team, or your workplace? So here's the challenge. Stay curious, think critically, and don't let headlines tell you the whole story. Share your perspective. Comment below, who would you back in this situation? How would you handle the pressure, the politics, and the possibility of rewriting the rules entirely? Because in Cleveland, one rookie just reminded the world that real leaders aren't born. They're proven under fire.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.